Get ready to get shticky. Shticky Situations is sponsored by Corona Crush. Corona Crush is creating Jewish couples always. Join the Facebook group. Just search Corona Crush and look out for virtual speed dating events happening every other week. They're 100% free and 100% Jewish.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Shticky Situations. I'm your host, Rachel, which obviously you already know because I'm unforgettable. Everyone, just a quick plug. Whatever platform you're listening on, go follow, subscribe, give it a 5-star rating, a glowing review. Go like Shticky Situations page on Facebook. Follow Shticky Situations Pod on Instagram and follow Shticky Situations Pod on TikTok. And if you would like to be a guest on my podcast, you can DM me. I have applications in my Corona Crush links, in my social media links, all of that. There's links for the application. If you can't find it, just send me a DM on Instagram, again, at Shticky Situations Pod, or you can send me an email at shtickysituationspod@gmail.com. We have a really, really special episode today, so I'm going to get right into it. So as many of you have probably already watched, because you're listening to this Jewish dating podcast, so obviously if there's a Jewish dating show out, you're going to watch it. So I'm assuming all of you have watched Jewish Matchmaking on Netflix. Spoiler alert, we are going to be talking about the show, so if you haven't watched the show, just beware. Certain parts might be spoiled. We might not talk about it, but just in case. And to talk about the show, I have with me a very special guest. Everyone, please welcome Sarah Friedson, aka Sarah Emily, who Sarah will tell a little bit more, but you might not have seen her on the show, but she recorded for the show and participated in the whole process, even though she wasn't shown. So we thought it would be fun to come and let her talk about her experience and ask her some questions about doing the show. Sarah, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, everyone. Rachel, thank you so much for having me on.
Thanks for being here. I'm more excited than you are.
It's going to be fun. Lots of fun things to share.
Yeah. And don't worry, Sarah and I have been trying to coordinate her to come for a regular episode for a long, long time.
Yes.
So stay tuned for that. And we'll ask her all of her information about that in that episode.
TBI.
So this is going to be a different episode than my normal. So just giving you guys the heads up. So yeah. So Sarah, do you want to tell us a little bit about you, about the experience? How did you end up, if you're allowed to say?
Yeah.
How did you end up filming for the show?
Okay, so it's kind of funny, but I actually ended up hearing about it through several different channels within probably a couple weeks time. Don't really remember what happened first, but so my sister also has a podcast, Schmuck Boys, and they had reached out to them to see if they knew anybody that wanted to be on the show, and my sister forwarded me their email because she knew it was kind of up my alley. Sidebar, my family actually in the last couple years tried to get onto a couple different shows, but
really?
It ended up not working out, but we did kind of go through process and whatever, not for Netflix, for other things, but my sister knows that I'm not camera shy. I'm a dancer. I've been in the entertainment industry for many years, so, and I'm obviously if you look at my social media and stuff like that, I'm very vocal about being Jewish. And my sister knows that I, I've been single for some time and looking for someone. So she sent it over my way. And coincidentally, I had also gotten a message from someone who was working in casting through my Instagram. And they were asking me, about applying as well, if I was interested. So, sometimes, especially, in Judaism, we believe in God and things happen for a reason. And I'm okay, well, if this is coming at me from a few different directions, I think I'm going to take this as a sign. And so I went and I, put in my application, and thus began my process. At the time I didn't know I was going to end up actually getting all the way to filming, but, it was a really interesting, cool process to go through. And led up to me filming some stuff for the show, even though I didn't actually make it onto the show in the end.
Wow. Yeah, definitely like God telling you, coming from different directions.
Yeah. It's like, take this opportunity. So whatever that means, I went for it. So.
Wow. So I guess like let's just talk about like the actual filming and your time doing it. So as we all saw on the show, like each person started out with meeting Eliza. So who's the matchmaker, and so what was your experience with Eliza? How did you like, what did you think of her as a person, as a matchmaker? We've all, like, in the Orthodox dating world, no matter what spectrum of orthodoxy you fall under, like, most of us have spoken to matchmakers of any sort. Like,
yeah.
I'm not sure if you've spoken to other matchmakers. Like, how did she compare, if you had? Just, like, a little bit about working with Eliza.
So, it was actually really funny, but I realized once I found out that it was her that we had actually been connected prior, back at, like, I think the beginning of like 2021, I had done some social media stuff for her. She was doing this, some program called like Master Your Dating Mindset, and she was looking for someone to help her promote for it. And I have a friend who was working for her at the time who was like, hey, I think you might be a good fit for this, because I do a little social media stuff. So I had actually been connected with her back then, and like hadn't really spoken with her since, and then found out it was her, and I was so excited because she was like a really nice person to work for, and it was just so funny that we just happened to have like known each other. So that was really cool. She's such a nice person. She was really great to work with. She really does care about like what you want, what you're looking for. I think as someone that, so I grew up conservative, Jewish-wise, but then I became more observant over the last few years, so Baal Teshuvah. And I think one thing that I can get a little nervous about in terms of working with matchmakers is just like that feeling of being judged. I mean, I think a lot of people probably have a similar fear, but as someone who kind of identifies, if I have to pick a category, whatever, is like modern Orthodox liberal, I guess. You feel like sort of this pressure, like you want to come off a certain way, or it can make you a little nervous to like really be yourself and be like super open about what you're looking for. And I think a lot of matchmakers also kind of work more heavily in like the more mainstream Orthodox, yeshivish world, like that kind of thing. So I was really always skeptical about working with matchmakers. Like, will they even know people that would fit with what I'm looking for? But she really like made me feel very comfortable and was like, just, be transparent about what you want. So that made me feel really comfortable. And I was just really excited to like get the process going, and so anxious to see like, who is she going to set me up with? I feel like a lot of times in the Jewish world, you can tell a matchmaker what you're looking for, and they will just come up with something that is like so off base.
Yes.
I think a lot of people can relate to that, and it's like, was I speaking another language when I talked to you? Like, why did you set me up with this person? Why did you like suggest this person? And it can be super frustrating. So like the whole time the process was going on, I'm just like, who is she going to set me up with? I was dying to know. And then, okay, so I want to share the big part of the puzzle that like everyone has been asking me about.
Okay.
Everyone has been asking me since the show came out, and really, because I did a little social media post about the fact that like I was in fact on the show. I did in fact film for the show, even though I wasn't actually featured on the show. And of course, over Shabbat, all the meals I went to, all the time I spent on the Great Lawn,
all the meals
Saturday.
I went to talking about it. And I was like, stay tuned, I'm going to interview her.
Yeah, like that was like the hot topic. Like everyone was coming up to me and they're like, who did you go out with? Who did you go out with? And I was like, okay, I need to like check and see like what I can share and not. But yeah, so the funny thing is I actually got set up with someone that I already knew.
Oh.
Plot twist.
I was actually going to ask that.
Yeah, so that really came as a surprise to me because I was waiting all that time to see, and then in an act of probably like the most ironic Jewish geography ever, it was like, oh, it's actually someone who's not even just in your community, but like in your friend circles.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
So that was like really surprising, confusing, like took time to process. And the funny thing was that I had just seen him like a couple Shabbats before, and there was a really funny interaction that happened between us. And then like I find out that, you know, I find out that it's him, and I'm like, wait, this is so crazy. So the guy is Alan Avitan.
Oh, that's so funny.
I'm sure some people I think already knew. Some people were like speculating. You know him. I know a lot of people know him. Shout out to Alan, who's not on the Upper West Side anymore. Upper West Side misses you. But yeah, so that was really, really funny. But you know what? Like we agreed to go on the date. We're like, okay, like we'll give it a shot. I mean, you never know. Like we never knew each other like super well. So I mean, it is sort of important. Eliza stresses this a lot. It's like important to try to keep an open mind. So you know, I trusted her judgment, went on the date, and then of course, like the funniest thing was just walking in, and we just start laughing. Like it's so natural, and I'm sure it was so different than like everyone else's, you know, dating experiences with the show, because it's like we already knew each other and kind of felt a certain level of comfortability around each other, and like immediately we just start talking about like the funny thing that happened a couple Shabbats before. So, and I'll share what that was. But we were at an oneg. I don't remember whose apartment it was, but the meal I was at, I think there was like an extra challah, and they were trying to figure out what to do with it. And I was like, oh, I'll take it. Like, I'll put it in my freezer, something like that. So I brought this bag that had a challah in it to the oneg. And so, like, everyone had thrown their jackets and stuff on this couch. So I threw my jacket onto the couch with the bag. And, like, because there's all these, like, jackets and stuff on the couch, if people wanted to sit down, they'd kind of, like, push them to the side or maybe move them, whatever. So I'm getting ready to leave, and I'm like going into the room to get my stuff and say bye to people, and I'm looking for this bag and I can't find it, and Alan is sitting on the couch, and I'm like, hey Alan, can you get up for a second? He gets up and he was literally sitting on my challah. Like the whole thing was completely smushed, like pancake status, and I started dying, and like everyone who was standing there who saw the whole thing just started bursting out laughing, and it was just hysterical, and like it became like an inside joke. So I show up to the date and we just automatically start laughing about the challah, and we're like, yo, how crazy is this? Like a couple weeks ago this happened, now the next time we're seeing each other is like on this date filming for a Netflix show. Like how bizarre is that? But truthfully, I feel like something like this could only happen in the Jewish community. Like,
yeah, no,
we're just so unique and connected in that way.
I honestly, okay, so while I was watching the show, and I get it, some of these people who live in other communities, so like we saw on the show, like Harmony, I think she was in LA, she got set up with like these guys, like I know that on the date she mentioned that they traveled in from elsewhere, but like even like Danny, who got set up with this guy in Miami, I'm like, the Miami Jewish community can't be that big. Like I was always wondering, or even I guess like in like Cindy in Israel, like Israel's a little bit bigger and like it's easier to travel from community to community, but I was always wondering, I was like, honestly, I thought Faye and the other guy like knew each other because like he knew her like like they had some connection. So I was honestly amazed that none of the people on the show knew each other already. Just because, like, I know how it works in this world. Like, you get set up with people and it's like, I know you. Or I know, like, there's always some connection in the Jewish world.
Truthfully, I bet that if they dug, someone would find some connection somewhere. Like, even if it's like, oh, like, my sister went to camp with, like, your cousin, you know? Like,
No, honestly.
It's bound to happen.
I mean, like, it happens on real dates.
Oh, 100%.
Like, I go on real dates, and, like, I've rarely gone out with a guy where we don't have some sort of connection, some sort of mutual friend, some sort of, like, something.
I mean, hopefully you're also not, like, related.
Yeah, oh, yeah, no. I really hope not. But...
You never know.
So, okay, so you guys, number one, did you have to pretend that you didn't know each other?
No, because, I mean, it
was just real.
It's reality television. It's non-scripted television. Like, that was, like, I mean, I'm sure, you know, it would have been entertaining to watch that go down, but, like...
Yeah, I would have been entertained.
It was totally natural. Like, it was fine for us to just, like, talk about our relationship and, like, exploring maybe could there be, like, another side to that. And we just talked about ourselves and just kind of went about it like it was a typical date.
Was it weird being on a date with, like, filming?
So, a lot of people have asked me that. Truthfully, you kind of just get used to it after a few minutes, but I'll be honest, like, I've had so much experience over the years with being on camera, performing. I actually spent 2 months on a TV show in India.
Oh, wow.
Dancing when I was like 23.
Cool.
Which that's live TV, so that's actually a lot scarier, especially when you've been eating Indian food every day and then you're on stage and you can't leave to go to the bathroom. Like,
oh my
things
gosh.
of that nature. So for me, this was like a breeze.
Wow. I always wonder that.
Puts things in perspective a little bit.
Yeah. For sure. So wait, did the show, like, plan where you would go on the date, or was it, like, real, like, he planned the date?
So, okay, we went on the date. It was at a restaurant. It was actually at 18 restaurant.
Did you see people you knew while you were on the date?
No. Like, there were people there, like, in the restaurant.
I just feel like whenever you go to a kosher restaurant in New York City, like, there's always going to be someone there.
Oh, absolutely. No, it didn't happen. It didn't happen this time, but it definitely could have. I mean, okay. You know, very, very likely situation. Yeah.
So you guys, from how you're talking about it, I'm assuming you guys only went on the one date?
Yeah. So we actually only went on one date. We basically just decided to keep our relationship status as friends, and yeah, we're still friends and still in touch as of today. So
okay. And so after that, did you get set up with anyone else or get to film in any other scenes?
So I didn't get set up with anyone else, but I did film some other things. I actually got to film something with my mom. Shout out to Funny Jewish Mom on Instagram. So it was funny, like, Eliza had seen some videos of my mom, and she was like, oh my gosh, I love her. She's, like, such a character. Let's, like, get her involved. So we filmed a little bit with my mom and, you know, just kind of basic stuff, like asked her, like, you know, what she's looking for me and that kind of thing. And of course, my mom had to bring her something homemade. My mom could never show up anywhere empty-handed, including a Netflix shoot. So she was up baking hamantaschen pretty late the night before. Like,
oh my gosh.
Typical my mom. I used to, when I lived at home, I used to sometimes, like, keep track of things that she was making and, like, the time, because it was just so hysterical. It was just like, you know, Rosh Hashanah apple cake, like 1:45 a.m., like matzo ball soup, like 12:30 a.m. like,
oh my gosh.
So anyway, so she stayed up pretty late making this hamantaschen because we did film around Purim, and she gave the hamantaschen to Eliza. It was very, very sweet. She liked them a lot, so it was really nice.
So nice. That's so cute.
It was really fun.
Typical Jewish mom.
She is such a typical Jewish mom. It was just so fun to be able to like film with her and have that experience. And my mom really is a character and also like very comfortable in front of a camera. I guess I get it from somewhere. So yeah, that was great. And so then I also filmed another scene, which was at a rabbi's house during a Purim Suda, which was really cool. Showed up in like Purim costume, everyone was in costumes. And it's funny because it was a rabbi that I actually know, that I'm like pretty close with, that I've known for many years. So it was actually, it was nice to, again, be in a situation where I was actually like familiar with people, and I know him and his wife and maybe even a couple of the other people there. And it was a very special, cool experience.
That sounds cool. What are you allowed to say? What was the scene at the Suda?
No.
Okay.
Not allowed to give that info.
Okay. You guys will just have to stay tuned and see if we ever find out.
If we ever find out. Yeah. But I will say that. Well, actually, maybe when I get into this like later.
So, did they tell you that you weren't going to be on the show before it came out?
I don't think I'm allowed to talk about that. But eventually I did find out that I wasn't on it.
Okay. Okay.
I kind of just like, at a certain point, I kind of just like assumed, because like you have to go through like probably like media prep and that kind of thing. And like I didn't like, never mind. Let's just skip that.
Okay. When you watched the show or found out that you weren't on the show, were you upset? Like, how did you feel?
So, definitely mixed emotions. The whole process definitely like took some time. It was really exciting. I was really excited, and only like my immediate family kind of like knew what was going on, and I was so excited to finally be able to like first even like just share that the show was happening. Like I was really excited when Netflix announced that they were doing the show. Mm-hmm. Anything that came out about it, I was like really excited about. And then as it kept getting like closer and closer and like finding out when it was being released and everything, I was like so excited. I'm like, can't wait to like tell people. And then of course I found out that I'm like not in it, so it was like, it was disappointing. I was definitely looking forward to being a part of it, not just for the sake of like being on a show, but the fact that this show is really truly unique. I think it's a little bit like groundbreaking in a way when it comes to how Jews are portrayed on TV. I do think that there have been for years just like a lot of shows that don't really represent us in the best light, and I knew based off of my experience filming that this show is going to be different.
Yeah.
And I felt very comfortable filming because of that. And when the show was first announced, so many people were like flooding to Twitter and Instagram with all these comments, and a lot of people were really scared, and rightfully so, because a lot of times when shows come out about Jews, it just they're very stereotypical, or it shows different stories of people that are like, it's not a good representation of Jews overall. Maybe it's just that person, maybe it's that particular community. So a lot of people were very nervous. A lot of the comments were like, people scared. It was negative, like, oh no, like this is gonna be a Shonda, this is gonna be embarrassing, this is gonna be terrible, all these. And I'm reading these comments and I'm like, all right, just you wait and see. Like, hold your judgment till the show comes out, because I think and I hope that a lot of these people were very pleasantly surprised by the way that the show portrayed us. There's such a wide variety of Jews shown, which I think was really incredible that they did that. Jews of different religious backgrounds, levels of observance, and of different colors, and it just, for me, is really beautiful and very unique. Not something that is really shown on TV or media in general very frequently. So I really was looking forward to being part of something like that, because Jewish representation is something that I really care about. So I was really looking forward to being part of something like that. It is obviously disappointing that in the end I am not a part of it, but I still feel really grateful to have been able to be part of the process, to have that experience. I do think everything happens for a reason. Obviously, there's some reason God has beyond my understanding of why I'm not on the show. But I am really happy that the show came out the way that it did, and that it shows Jews in the way that it does. And I really, really hope that there are people who are watching it who will learn something and become educated and see, wow, Jews are not a one size fits all. They come in so many different shapes and sizes and colors. I really, really do hope that people get something out of it that's educational and helps people to have a more positive view about our community.
I agree with you. I think we'll get to it after we take a break. I wanted to ask you a little bit just about your thoughts from watching the show. Not just a third party outside viewer, because I'm assuming you watched the episodes. And
I've seen only some of it so far. Okay. I actually haven't watched the whole thing.
Oh, okay.
So I definitely will, but only some of it. But yeah, I'm happy to share some thoughts.
Yeah.
For sure.
Okay, so I think we'll get to that after the break in a little bit, just because I think it'd be fun to just talk about the show from watching it, because it's obviously interesting to hear Sarah's experience and everything, but I also think it would just be fun because, Jewish dating, just to talk about our thoughts. But Sarah, before we take a quick break, do you have more to share? Do you have anything else that you want to share about your experience?
So I would say that, in terms of my comfortability with filming a show like this, as someone who really cares about Jewish representation, I did want to share a couple of things that did make me feel more comfortable.
Okay.
I think it's important for people to know. So one of those things, for example, on my date, there was actually someone there who was taking note of any Jewish terminology that we use that audience members may not be familiar with. And if we said something that, they didn't understand, or they didn't think that viewers would understand, they would ask, hey, can you clarify what you just said, or what this means? I thought that was really great. Just made me feel they care about getting it accurate. So that was one thing. Also, just in general, the fact that they had that they picked Eliza as the matchmaker, and she's a religiously observant woman who also definitely cares about the Jewish community and Jewish representation and being a Kiddush Hashem. So that alone definitely made me feel really comfortable, that I can trust this person and trust this process to represent Jews in a positive way. And then the third thing that really kind of like sealed the deal for me was, so there's a woman named Ronit who was working for them or does work for them. And I should get her whole name, Ronit Paulin Tarshish. So her whole job, I met her at one of my shoots, and her whole job was to monitor everything Jewish about the show. She's a religious woman herself, observant Orthodox woman herself. And her whole job was to monitor everything Jewish going into the show and like make sure that it was accurate. And that was like huge for me. And I was like, why can't this woman just like work for every single network that puts out a Jewish show? Like, truthfully, because sometimes you watch things and you question, like, did they even have a Jewish person like on their staff? Like, what's going on here? So I got to meet her. She was so nice and just kind of like reassured me. And, you know, that definitely, like I said, just like sealed the deal, made me feel super comfortable. And yeah, again, just made me really excited for the show to come out.
Wow. I definitely have my thoughts that I want to share on what you just said.
Yeah, definitely.
But I think we're going to take a quick break just to hear a word from our sponsors, but we'll be right back.
Shticky Situations is sponsored by Corona Crush. Are you tired of swiping on dating apps? Tired of guessing whether the cute guy or girl you keep seeing around is Jewish and or single? Then you need to run, not walk, to join Corona Crush. Corona Crush is a Jewish organization working to create Jewish couples always. Corona Crush has over 30 confirmed engagements, over 22,000 members from all over the world, and has set up over 50,000 speed dates. Join the Corona Crush Facebook group and post yourself or have a friend post you and see who reaches out. Fill out the survey to sign up for virtual speed dating events happening every other week. Corona Crush is 100% free and 100% Jewish. Worst case, you end up with some stories of your own. Best case, you find the love of your life. Try it out today. Here on Shticky Situations, we tend to focus on bad dating stories, but sometimes dates do go well and lead to proposals and weddings. Who would have thought? And what do all of those require, you might be asking? Well, the answer is flowers. Who doesn't want flowers from someone they've been seeing? Don't forget, flower petals and bouquets needed for proposals. And that's even before all the flowers that go into weddings. Shticky Situations is sponsored by Primrose Flower Shop. In my opinion, Primrose is the coolest flower shop around and has the best customer service to fulfill all of your floral needs. Primrose offers a range of services from your basic bouquets to subscription services where you can get flowers delivered once a week. They deliver all over the tri-state area, including Manhattan. Primrose does weddings, bar and bat mitzvahs, and other simchas. I've personally been to a wedding where Primrose did the flowers, and the work they did was beyond gorgeous. Primrose additionally offers in-store proposals, including a romantic setup with candles and music. Primrose is located at 2922 Avenue M in Brooklyn, and the phone number is 929-376-9815. You can also follow Primrose on Instagram at PrimroseNY. So, if you can't get someone out of your head, buy them some flowers from Primrose. They'll either love it or they'll find you really creepy. But regardless, the flowers will be out of this world.
We're back, everyone. So Sarah just told me some of like the things that made her comfortable filming, which I think is a really good segue into, I thought it would be fun to just like talk about the episodes that are out with Sarah. Like,
yeah.
Obviously I binged them all in preparation for this interview, but also like I just did it anyways. But I think the things that Sarah was saying were some of the things that I really liked about the show as well. Like, I thought it was a pretty good representation of the Jews, and like a lot of my friends have said the same. We all know that there have been other shows like put out that like have not been great representations of Jews. But I think what I liked about the show is like, I'll get into my gripe with it afterwards. I really did like how it showed all types of Jews. I liked how everything was really explained. Like, of course, I understood what Eliza was saying with them in terms of, like, different Hebrew words or different concepts, different Jewish concepts.
Yeah.
Like, as an Orthodox Jew myself, like, I understand what they are.
Right.
But, like, my non-Jewish coworkers, like, who I told to watch the show, like, they might not know what it means.
Yeah, and I was so curious how they were going to do that, too.
Yeah.
But I think they did a good job at that.
I think they did a really good job, and now, like you're saying, it makes sense that they had someone who is religious, like, guiding them and, like, really, like, taking notes if there was anything discussed in Hebrew, because I saw it either with sessions with Eliza and the people on the show, or on the actual dates themselves, there were different things that were discussed that, like, people who aren't part of the Jewish world might not necessarily know, and I think they did a very good job explaining. And I think it really just showed the Jews as, like, normal people. And, like, there were people who were non-religious who were on, and it showed them, like, still appreciating their Judaism and wanting to marry within the Jewish faith, and different aspects of what's important to them about their Judaism, to even the most religious people that they showed on the show, where it's like, oh no, we don't live in communities where, like, just because you're Orthodox doesn't mean you live in a community that a woman can't drive, and, like, all of these radical ideas that, yes, there are some radical Jews, as every community has their radicals. Right. There are certain sects of Judaism that are like that, but that's not every single religious Orthodox person.
And it also doesn't mean that it's every single person from even that sect. Like, yeah. Everyone is different. Also, I wanted to say, I was also really curious about, like, how Orthodox representation was going to be on the show. I think something that a lot of people probably don't think about is the fact that there are a lot of people, obviously there are certain people that, like, wouldn't be comfortable filming on TV regardless. But I do especially think there's, like, a certain sensitivity within, like, the Orthodox community, because especially when you're single and you're dating, word, like, gets around very quickly if you're, like, involved in a certain something, or you, like, do a certain something, or you, like, dress a certain way, like, whatever the case is, like, people can talk and, like, be judgmental, and, you know, there might be certain communities where people just wouldn't feel comfortable going and putting themselves out there, knowing that their community is gonna, like, see them doing this, and maybe will judge them for it. And so I was so curious, like, and hopeful that they would be able to get Orthodox people on the show, you know, who would agree to do it. I think that the way that they did make us feel comfortable about all the Jewish stuff, I'm sure that had a really huge role to play in them, you know, feeling like they could come on a show like this. But I'm sure there also were people who would not feel comfortable coming on a show like this for, you know, different reasons.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I'm going to get to my main gripe about the show, which the second I saw the trailer for it was my gripe about it. Okay, so I understand, and I do really see the value in showing all types of Jews
for sure
on the show.
For sure.
But I really think, and I understand that Eliza, in general, like, just from knowing about her, works with a variety of different types of Jews. She's not just your average, like, Orthodox matchmaker.
Right.
I would have liked to see a little bit more of the religious people, because really all I saw of being religious was Faye, who I would love to have on the podcast.
Can I tell you, by the way, like, people keep confusing me with Faye.
Really?
Yes.
I think Faye is awesome, and, like, just like a disclaimer, Sarah does not know Faye. Sarah does not know anything about Faye. Yeah. We're talking about this just as, like, third-party viewers.
Yeah.
Number one, I thought it was so funny because, like, they talked about the concept of Shomer Negia, like, not touching before marriage on the show. Watching all of the dates on the show, Faye and the guy that she went out with, who I'm blanking on his name. Shia. Faye and Shia had the most chemistry out of any of the dates that I watched on the show. This is my personal opinion. I was like wrecked when they like broke up. I hope they get back together and get married someday. Sarah, again, does not know anything about them. We don't know where they stand now, but we just saw them break up on the show. And like,
I don't think we can give status updates
yet,
but there is a status update.
Oh.
But I don't know if I can share. So
okay, so we won't say anything about that. But all I'm saying is like and it's crazy, and it's like also so nice to see because like some of the people of the world look at Orthodox dating and like Sarah and I are in the modern Orthodox community, and some people are Shomer Negia, most people are not. But like there's this stigma around being Shomer Negia, and it's like you just date, and it's like so contractual and business contract kind of, and like people don't think there's like emotion to it,
or that we have like arranged marriages.
Yeah,
which is so crazy.
So I thought it was so cool to see Faye and Shia's date, where literally again, in my personal opinion, I thought that they had the most chemistry out of any of the couples that went out on the show. Like that's my hot take. You guys can agree or disagree. Maybe I'm biased because I was just waiting for someone who like was Orthodox to come on the show. Like Cindy was great too. But my gripe with the show is I wish they had shown more people who were like Orthodox. And I understand that. So Faye is a little bit more to the right than like the community that Sarah and I are in. Cindy probably is more around our level.
Yeah.
But that's why like I was so sad, like especially after I found out Sarah actually did film. Like we live in probably the biggest modern Orthodox community of young professionals
100%
in America, and I was so disappointed to not see someone like from my community like represented, especially because I'm pretty sure this is the biggest community of modern Orthodox singles in America.
It has to be.
It has to be. I don't think, like, I've been looking at other communities. I don't think there is one that's bigger. Yeah. Like, there are some of, like, smaller sizes. Like, I don't know. We did see, like, Danny in Miami, and we saw Ori in LA, even though Ori is not a good representation of any type of Jew. Ori is the best representation of every disgusting male that, like, he's probably the only one on the show who I did not like. I would never want to meet in person. Like, who does he think he is? He literally works for his mom. He lives with his mom. But it's honestly also a great depiction of Jewish men. Because, like, these Jewish men, and you guys can refer back to, like, one of my previous episodes where I say the shidduch crisis is a scam because these men have to make women feel inferior so that we settle for them who are just, like I'm blanking on the word. They're just like mid, you know? There's nothing good about them. They're just like mid. They're mediocre. These mediocre men who think they deserve the best. And us as women need to take our power back. The first woman he went out with, I think her name was Adi. She was awesome. She was beautiful. She definitely was more successful than he was, and he's such a pig to say that he don't want to date her because her hair wasn't blonde enough and her boobs weren't big enough. Like, how dare he?
That was pretty wild.
You live at home with your parents. You work for your mom. Like, yeah, they might bankroll your life, but I think, like, I'm an accountant. I think of things in terms of numbers, and I'm like, okay, if you want to model, you need to have something to offer.
Yeah.
And, like, he was, like, okay looking, but I was like, you don't have that much to offer, bro. Like, mommy and daddy are paying your bills, but, like, how much is your paycheck? Like, I don't think it's, like, that much.
I will say, though, like, I mean, even though I haven't found, like, my guy yet, I do think that, like, we should make a point of saying that, like, there definitely are, like, nice, respectful Jewish guys out there.
No, there definitely are.
And he was definitely not a good representation of that. I think that his mindset represents a lot of guys in general these days who have this, like, I forgot how Eliza described it in the show, but they have this, like, menu of people, like, endless people on, like, these dating apps and everywhere you go, and then they just feel like, you know, they're kind of, I guess, entitled to just like, you know, pick and choose and be like super vocal, I guess, about what, you know, and what they don't want. I don't know. It's like these superficial things, but just not a good representation of like men in general.
And I will say he was the only one that, like, first of all my friends didn't like him. My non-Jewish coworker was talking to me this morning about the show. She's like, oh, I watched the first few episodes. She's like, I did not like that guy. I thought he was like, and she basically said the same things that I was thinking. I was like, yes, yes, and yes. So, Ori, if you're listening, you could come defend yourself on the podcast. But also just know that, like, maybe, like, check yourself.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
assess.
I also kind of wish that it wasn't, like, one of the earlier episodes, because
I know.
If someone is just tuning in to, like, check it out and they see
It's
that
kind of a
and then they
turn-off.
don't see anything else, it's like, oh, like, hopefully they don't think that's what all Jewish guys are like.
Yeah, and, like, I mean, some of the other Jewish guys weren't that greatly represented either. Like, the one guy that Danny went out with, David, I think his name was, like, he was not as bad as Ori, don't get me wrong, but, like, even, like, things that she said on the show, I mean, that's all I'm basing it off of, like, my observations and what she said on the show. Like, she was like, oh, he didn't pour me water or wine, like, on the date. And
Take
it's just
notes,
like,
guys.
Yeah, take notes, guys. Like, I'm not that picky. And, like, yeah, if I'm pouring water, I will always offer my date to pour them water, too.
Yeah.
But it's just, like, it's not even a man versus woman thing. It's a respectful thing. Like,
just
you're
be considerate.
You're picking up the bottle, you offer someone else. Even when I'm out to dinner with my friends.
Right.
If I'm picking up the water pitcher and I notice that my friend's cup next to me is empty, I will fill their cup also.
Yeah,
And it's just, like,
absolutely.
it's basic human respect. And also, I really, props to Danny for telling him off, because, like, girl after my own heart, like, I like how when he wouldn't make a plan with her, she told him.
Yeah.
She told him, she's like, I'm not into this. Like,
I liked her with the other guy.
I did too.
But I haven't seen, like, past that, so, like,
Okay.
don't spoil it for me. But
I don't fully remember.
I really liked her with the guy that she met up with in Cali.
Oh yeah, the surfer dude.
I thought they were really cute together. Like, I
The one that
kind of
lives in
like
Hawaii.
Yeah, like, I kind of was low key hoping that they would, like, you know.
Yeah. It was funny, I was
matched,
talking to this
but-
guy on J-Swipe who actually, like, knew her from somewhere.
Of course.
Like, obviously.
More Jewish
Because
geography.
I, like, mentioned the show, and he's like, oh, I know one of the girls.
Yeah.
And it's like, literally everyone knows everyone.
Everyone
in
knows
this Jewish
everyone.
world.
Yeah.
I thought Cindy could have been set up with a better guy. I didn't like the guy she got set up with.
I agree.
I didn't like him.
Yeah.
I
I kind of, like, felt for her. I thought she was really, like, really cool.
thought Harmony should have just gone for that first guy. He seemed nice.
I didn't get to
like-
Harmony yet, so
I don't remember
Don't spoil.
the couple at the end, the weird dude. I really don't remember his name, but he's a weird dude. He reminds me of these guys who hang around our community who are, like, in their 50s, hanging out with, like,
Trying to hang out with younger
trying
girls.
to hang out with girls in their 20s and 30s. Like, he reminded me so much of that. Like, maybe I met him before. Literally, he came on the screen, and I was like, wait, did I have a Shabbos meal with him?
It's like the Jewish representation that, like, exists, but we don't want to portray, like, we don't want to, like,
Exactly.
portray our community in that way.
Exactly.
Like, we don't want you to know about, like, certain
Yeah.
people in our community.
I don't mean offense to him at all. Like, I really
Everyone
don't mean
deserves
this offense.
love.
Everyone
Everyone
deserves love.
deserves to find
And I
love.
really, like, was happy that he hit it off with the girl at the end. Like, we don't know status updates, anything. But, like, listen, I hope it worked out for him. And I hope he can stop hanging out with girls in their 20s and 30s and just, like, settle down and be married if that's what he wants in life.
I give a bracha to everyone that was on the show, that everyone should find their B'Sher this year.
Amen. I give everyone that bracha as well. But we'll see.
Include me,
But you
please.
guys can come be guests on the podcast and tell your dating stories along the way. And then, there was only one other thing that I really just didn't like. I don't remember her name, but the girl who was in Kansas City, and when she was talking about what she was looking for, I really didn't like when she said, she's like, there can only be one bigger person in the relationship, like, in terms of, like, size, like, weight. And she was a bigger girl, which, listen, we stand a big girl. We love that.
I don't think I got to that part yet. So
Oh, yeah, probably not. It's towards the end. And, like, I'm all about body positivity. I think you should love the body you're in. I think, like, the size of your body does not say anything about your life. And I see all these like TikToks about people who are like, oh, would you date a bigger person? And they're like, oh no, because they don't take care of themselves. Like, you have no idea what someone who is bigger does or does not do to take care of themselves. But I didn't like her saying that she would not date a bigger guy because of that. Like, I was very turned off by her when she said that, because it's like, it takes me back to Ori. It's like, okay, but like, who are you to say that? Like, I don't like when anyone says it, but obviously it's someone who like has been through that, and in that community, not community, but like has been through that and been rejected for their body probably multiple times. I know, as somebody who's been rejected for my body a lot of times, like, it doesn't feel good. Like, why would you reject someone else?
I think it's
like,
kind of funny. Like, I mean, everyone's entitled to have their traits that they want, but to say like, oh, there's only room for like one person that's like this or that in the relationship, it's like, okay, so you're basically judging like every other couple that's ever existed that like has been in that position. Like, why?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's true in terms of physical look. I think like certain personality traits, like maybe there is only room for that one personality trait in the relationship.
Yeah, sometimes it could just clash, be too much.
Yeah, but I think for a physical trait, like, we all go through ups and downs, and everyone's gonna get fat and old and wrinkly anyways. Like,
you just need someone that's going to accept you
and
for
love
who
it.
you are right then and there. A big lesson that I have had to learn the hard way, unfortunately, a couple times. Stay tuned for part 2 when I come back on
Sarah
the podcast.
is coming back. Like, I don't think you guys realize, Sarah and I have been in touch for months for her to come on the podcast.
Also, shout out to Esther, my good friend, for connecting us.
And then it's funny because I found out that she's actually roommates with one of my friends.
Of course.
Yeah, everyone's like...
We're all connected.
Everyone's connected, the whole Jewish world. But, yeah, so... I think those were my main thoughts on the show. I would love to see a season 2. Any Netflix people listening, like, if you want a funny, modern Orthodox Jewish podcaster to be on the show, doesn't look like your normal Jewish girl, like, is literally a party and a person, but also is, like, very serious about finding love, I'm your girl, so you can reach out, shtickysituationspod@gmail.com. I'd love to come on the show.
You know, everyone's been asking me, or like when they find out I'm not on the show, they're like, oh, like maybe you can be on season 2. Like maybe there will be a season 2. And I'm like, hold up. Like, even if there is a season 2, I would hope to like have found my person by then.
Yeah.
Like if by chance, you know, I haven't, then sure, I would go for season 2. But I would hope to like be engaged by then.
Like, yeah, that's on the condition that I'm still single, but like at the
rate, like, oh,
at the rate I'm going, I probably will be. So yeah, I'm open to it. And like, worst case, Netflix comes to me and I'm like engaged.
Maybe if they start filming now.
Yeah, start filming now.
Then I can tell you, yes, I'm still single and I'll film. Wait, I also wanted to mention, so I know I mentioned before about people confusing me and Faye.
Yeah.
Faye and I wanted to like go into that a little bit just because I thought it was really funny. So people like saw the post that I made about like being on the show, but some people didn't read the whole thing. They just like skimmed it. And people thought that I actually was in the show. They're like, okay, I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna look out for you. And I had a comment to a bunch of people like, no, like you're not gonna see me. Some woman actually even commented like, oh my gosh, I saw you, and like, you know, this episode, and like I feel bad for this happening, and blah 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 blah. And I was like, oh my gosh, she totally doesn't realize that that was not me.
Oh
but
my
I
gosh.
guess because Faye and I mean, I see it. I think we kind of look alike a little bit.
I see a little bit.
So people have been like confusing us, and I even had a friend in Israel reach out to me, and he was like, hey, so my friend told me that you are on the show, but you're going by the name Faye. I laughed so hard. I was like, nope, that's because we are completely different people. That was not me.
That's so funny.
Yeah, shout out to Faye. You seem like a cool person. I don't know.
Faye, come on the podcast.
Come on the podcast.
I DM'd you. Check your Instagram DMs.
Come for Shabbat. This is your
come be friends with us.
Official invite to come to Upper West Side for Shabbat.
We want to be friends with you.
Yeah.
And we want you on the podcast.
Let's do it. We'll take like a twinning photo.
Okay, so, and then I guess, like, my only last thought about what I was watching on the show, I really liked Eliza. I've already said this a lot of times, I think she did a really good job and like Sarah even said, she made her feel very comfortable. Like, it showed on the show. Like, I could tell she made the people she was talking to feel very comfortable. And she just seemed, like, I've never met her. But, I mean, I've met a lot of people who have. And, like, just from what I've heard and what I've seen on the show, she just seems like that type. So I thought she's a great choice to be the matchmaker on the show. And I thought she was, like, really cool about everyone. Like, even though, like, I know she wanted to roll her eyes when Ori was saying what he wanted, she was so professional, so straight-faced, so good. And, yeah, I thought she was great. I thought she explained things well. I thought she took what everyone said to heart when she was doing the matches.
I loved her little sayings.
Yeah, I did too.
The date 'em till you hate 'em, like all that stuff. I mean, you have to like obviously know what she's really talking about to understand it, but yeah. I thought that stuff was really cool, and it's like different little phrases to be mindful of when you're dating. And I don't know if you are aware of this, but Netflix came out with an article with her basically giving like a rundown of all the different Jewish terminology. So that if you're watching the show, you can understand what's being spoken about, which I thought was really cool. So shout out to Lisa. You're awesome. I had a great time going through this experience with you. And wish you much success. Hatzlacha from the show.
Did you, like, work with Eliza at all after the show? Like, was it just like, oh, we filmed, we're done, no more? Or...
So we had been in touch. Even though I hadn't, like, went and outside of the show, like, hired her as my official matchmaker, she did at one point, like, suggest someone to me that she came across. I didn't end up, like, going on a date with this person or anything like that, but, and then a little bit later, like, we were in touch here and there, and then a little bit later, I actually did do one, relationship coach like session with her to try to get some clarity on like a situation that I was in, and I think she gave some really good advice, gave me stuff to think about that I hadn't thought about before, and she really is great at what she does. She has a lot of knowledge and presents it in a very like clear way. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, she's great.
That's awesome. Well, Sarah, this has been awesome having you here. Is there anything else you want to share that we didn't talk about? Any last thoughts?
Not so much that I can think of. One thing that I did think would be cool to mention is that during the process, Eliza had given me a copy of her book, Marriage Minded Mentor, and she signed it for me and like gave me a bracha. It was really cute. And it's kind of like a little workbook for anyone that's serious about dating and like wanting to get married. And if you're listening and you fit into that category, which is probably a lot of your listeners, definitely recommend checking out her book.
Okay, I'll have to check it out. I've been told about it before too. But yeah, so Sarah, thank you so much again for coming on. This has been so great. Thanks for sharing about your experience. Thanks for chatting about the show with me. I can't wait to have you back for a regular episode.
That'll be all the juicy dating stories
and
whatnot, which there are plenty of. But yeah, this was so much fun. Thank you so much for having me on. And I feel a little bit relieved, like finally after all this time being able to like share about my experience. So it's really cool. I hope everyone enjoys listening about it. So
thank you. And Shticky Situation Nation, you'll catch me next time. Go check out Jewish Matchmaking on Netflix if you haven't already. And you'll catch me next time.
See you next time.
Bye, everybody.
Yalla, bye.